Hello. Hi, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar. My name is Subrata Sarkar and I am an Azure Solution Architect in TCS. And today it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to our speaker, Mr. Siddharth Gupta. Siddharth is a platform lead in TCS focusing on Azure, AWS, and other cloud solutions for our global customers, and is cloud mentor responsible for grooming TCSers in learning and evangelizing cloud technologies. Siddharth also leads many of the technology GTMs we have with Microsoft, and today we will hear from him how the world of cloud is shaping up in the market and how best we can leverage this growth to enhance our careers. What are the roles in the industry and how we can become cloud specialist. Over to you, Siddhartha.
Subrata, thank you for that lovely introduction. Uh, thank, Welcome everybody to this webinar. Without taking too much time on introducing myself, Subrata has already spoken. I would like to straight away go to today's discussion. Uh, those of you who have taken the time off today to listen to this, so I will start by saying that cloud computing and cloud applications is today one of the most important foundational technologies that we as technology consultants we need to learn, we need to understand, because this particular technology not only has the ability to completely change the way our industry is going ahead with solutions for customers, but it is a foundation for everything else that you hear about. So when you hear about analytics, when you hear about artificial intelligence, when you hear about IoT, cloud is the foundational layer for all of this. So everything today is working on cloud. And cloud has been, it has been quite a number of years since cloud has been there in the industry. I think it's more than 10 years now that AWS and Azure, the two leading vendors, have offered their services and solutions in the market. But over the last 2 or 3 years, we are seeing this kicking off very, very fast. And why it is going this fast is something that we will talk about a little bit today, and you will be able to understand very well uh, on your own once I am done with this session on where this is going to go in the future. So let me start with what companies are saying about cloud. So cloud has some of the studies that are there are saying that today 93% of all the companies that are running across the globe that are doing any kind of businesses has at least seen one area or other of improvement using cloud. And 64% of them say that cloud has helped them to reduce waste, or it has helped them to reduce energy consumption in one of those areas. And so these kind of statistics are abound in the market on what are the different ways in which cloud is helping businesses. So needless to say, these percentage figures are very, very impressive, because they either help in improvement in the way companies are doing businesses, or they help in making them more efficient, or they are sometimes seen as green technologies which is helping reduce energy consumption. Now, if we look at the potential savings that companies have realized, it's many companies have claimed more than 80% savings, and these are all data from Microsoft from some of their studies. So needless to say that if something is doing so well, it is going to be very, very popular. And that's why we'll see everywhere you go, you hear about cloud computing. You go to any seminar, there's always a topic on that. You go to any bookstore, there are 10 books on cloud. So that's what the importance of this is. And those of you who are looking for a career in cloud computing, there's a very specific area of cloud, which is cloud applications, which I will focus subsequently. Now let's look at what are the different industries that are adopting the top three cloud vendors. So we all probably know this much of basics we have, that AWS, Azure, and Google are the three largest providers. There are many smaller niche and regional providers who either work in a specific market. There are cloud providers who work in China or some of the Asian countries. There are some cloud providers who work specifically in European countries, but these are the three largest ones. Where, from a career perspective, if we are looking at cloud, if I want to build my career in cloud computing, I would probably choose one of these three. Maybe if I want to narrow it down a little, I will probably choose either AWS or Azure, and then maybe even Google. So the adoption of cloud had originally started primarily with retail industry. So retail and media and the streaming companies, they started this first, and then other businesses are picking up. So you will see that companies like ours, like TCS, and even our competing companies, we have a large amount of business in these particular sectors. And because our customers are picking up cloud just like anything, we as a company are also focusing on that, because that's what we have to do to be able to succeed with these customers. So whether it is retail, these are companies like Amazon or Walmart or Marks and Spencer, you name any retail company in the world, they are adopting cloud. If you look at travel companies, they are adopting cloud. If you look at all the hospitality companies, all the hotels and airlines, they are adopting cloud. Now, if you look at manufacturing, so manufacturing, they want to run their entire new generation plants, their manufacturing devices, everything on cloud, and all of these cloud providers have very specific offerings for these industries. Now, here's some of the data on how big. Many people think that, okay, we are going to spend time learning cloud, or we are going to spend some time doing projects on cloud. How big is this cloud? So if you see here, the market of cloud is quite large. So it starts with, today many of the estimates are saying that cloud market is more than 300 billion, which is quite a significant share of the entire IT landscape that we have. So within the cloud market, there are many types of cloud services that are there. The most popular of that is what is known as the cloud infrastructure services. That is followed by PaaS, which is known as platform as a service. And then there are many other services such as software as a service, etc. These are all the areas where there is a lot of potential for us to build ourselves as cloud professionals. So I'll move on to the next slide. So this is a slide that shows that 60% of today's users prefer to use cloud computing over on-premise technologies. So if you see today, 60% of users are preferring to use cloud computing. You can understand from that what is the importance of this cloud to businesses. And the more important cloud is to businesses, the more important it becomes for us. So when we are talking of cloud computing, we have to realize that once businesses start adopting these technologies generate jobs in the market. And then these jobs come out as demand for IT infrastructure services, platform services, software services in the industry. And that's what we, when we are working in cloud computing, we want to build our careers in these areas. So, going on to each of these industries where cloud is being adopted, let me take up a few examples on how cloud is being adopted in each of these industries and how that adoption is shaping each of these. So, today, if you look at industries today, what is happening in across all of these industries? One major thing is happening, which is known as digital disruption. What exactly is digital disruption? Everything that was being done yesterday in one way or the other, that is changing. So today, if we need a cab, we use an app to get that cab. We don't use, earlier we used to make a phone call to get a taxi, or maybe we used to wait on the streets to get a cab. We don't do that anymore. If we want to transfer money, earlier we used to go to the post office or get a money order. We don't do that anymore. So this is known as digital transformation. So each business in the world today, they are changing the way they are doing business. They are not following the models that they used to follow maybe a decade back or maybe even 5 years back. And here, if you see the examples that I have put forward, most of these industries are doing things differently, and almost all of them are going to use cloud, because without cloud you are kind of unable to achieve any of these things. So if you look at banking, banking is an industry that is trying to go 100% digital. Most of the banks today, their goal is to go build digital wallets or software of that nature, which will make you do 100% of your banking on the app. They don't want you to visit the branches. If you see communications and media, most of the media companies today, they want to use streaming and this kind of technologies. They don't want old school tapes or discs to be carrying media. So all of that is changing. Now the way media is stored, the way media is viewed, all of that will be done using cloud. Most of the large media providers in the USA, they are using cloud for either storing or transmitting their media services. So just to kind of repeat the same point, is that as these industries are adopting cloud, so will the market for services shape that way. So will companies like us work towards servicing this demand, and we as professionals have to build those skills so that we can build our career in cloud computing, those of us who aspire to do that. I'm sorry, my slide movement is a little slow. Uh, so let's look at, if I'm having a, why this is interesting for me. Okay, because the question often comes is that, yeah, we understand that big companies, they do a lot of things, but I as an individual professional, what is in it for me? So if you look at some of the salaries or some of the that in the US market today, if you are a regular Java programmer or a .NET programmer, and if you are a cloud, you are a cloud developer, or if you know cloud native technologies, or if you are a cloud architect, if you are, the level of your salaries or whatever consulting fees that you can get is is at least it's double. I mean, at a minimum, it will be double of what a normal person with a. I doubt if you just know programming today in any of the older languages, whether you can get a job. I mean, you might be able to get a job, but I don't think it will be very satisfying to you, or it will be highly paying. The reason being, Some of these technologies like Java and .NET have been there for around 15, 20 years, and they've kind of run out of steam. But it's not that they are outdated, but most of their usage has been moved to cloud. If you are a Java developer having knowledge of AWS or Azure, then that's what makes you valuable as a professional. If you are a .NET developer and you have a strong background in Azure PaaS services, some of the application services that Azure has, then it brings value to you, because as a customer, I'm going to do all of my work in Azure. So even if you are a .NET developer or a SQL Server developer or an Oracle specialist, I would need you to know these cloud technologies, because without these technologies you cannot execute the project, because it is not going to be done in the old school way in my on premise. So that's what this makes it very, very important, and that's why it makes cloud skills so much more valued. And this ProCert program that we have, that's what it is trying to address. I will talk a little bit about how we can learn, means what is the mechanism for learning later in this webinar. But we're trying to cover the importance of cloud and what is going on and why it is so interesting. So now let's look at what the adoption is, like why this adoption is happening. I've kind of touched upon it, but this slide kind of shows the structural pattern based on which this entire thing is happening. So there are three ways of looking at it. One is the context, which I have already said, that as a business, I want to do new things, I want to do it differently, I want to be fast, and I want to be always on. Now, this is the important terminology. Today's businesses and the businesses of 5 years back are different. 5 years back, if you had to go to a shop, let's say you want to buy a shoe in Bata, you would not expect that after 10 p.m. at night you will go to their shop and look at their stuff. But today, you have the expectation that if some shop is not open, at least I should be able to check the designs on the website. And if those, so look at the television campaign that Bata is running. So they are trying to entice users to go and shop with them on online. This was not there 5-10 years back. I mean, many of the businesses in India, even a big company such as Bata, would not think that being present online is at all important. They would think that, oh, we have all these shops and people can just come and buy their stuff when they want. But that is what being always on is about, because in today's generation, all of us, we are always on the mobile. We work late in the evenings, and then when we go home, it's we want to check out some things that have. It's not that we don't follow a 10 to 5 routine anymore. So the businesses that are serving us, they need to be available for us when we want to buy the thing. So that is what competition is about. If I want to buy something and it is 10 p.m. at night, and maybe there's a online shop that is open somewhere, I will order my shoe over there. I'm not going to wait for the next day. So that's what the context is about. Now, the if you see these old businesses, their competition is always with these new companies. So older retail companies such as Walmart, their competition is always with Amazon, because Amazon is always trying to do things online. And the older companies, they want you to go to their shops and buy things. So this pressure is forcing them to build these always on digital native platforms. And this force is what I explained, that is their ambition. All these old companies, they have that ambition that I want to become tomorrow like Amazon, or I want to become like Airbnb. and that is what where they are making their investments in. This entire thing is what in our terminology we call it cloud native applications, which is quite popular and prevalent. And if you are working towards becoming a cloud applications professional, see this entire ProCert program that we have worked out, that is aimed towards making you a cloud applications professional. And what I have done today is I have invited two of my colleagues, people who were very good technologists in their career. They they knew a lot of technologies, and they were working with customers who were using some of these older technologies, but then they realized that they need to move to the new technologies. They took the path just like you guys, I suggest, should do. And I asked them to share their experiences. So two of them are with me today. One is Sambuddho Chandra. So I will request Sambuddho to share his learning path, how he went ahead and became a cloud architect. And then after that, I will invite Amlan to share that. Sambuddho, please.
Hello everyone. So this is Shambuddha Chandra, and I am with this IT industry for last 17 years. So my career I started with .NET and SQL, and had a very long development background that I worked on these technologies with various customers, developing the applications, various solutions on these technologies. Gradually, I was really fascinated the offering that cloud providers bring to the market, and they offered a platform, kind of a canvas to me, where I can draw the technology for tomorrow. So I started my learning on various websites, the documents that cloud provided they share over the portals, over different blog. So these blogs and documents, product documents are helpful. At the same time, I got opportunity to attend some of the Microsoft training. Those are very specific for the architects, very specific to design the solutions in a cloud native fashion. With these, the learning started, and for last 5 years, almost it is 5 years, I'm doing that exercise, and it is really not a single time effort or one time effort that we put. It is a continuous process where I need to learn the service provider. They are releasing the services every quarter. So many services are coming, and it is a really a fun activity to experience that, be a part of our digital transformation. So that's the journey I'm being. Obviously, I do get my hands dirty with a lot of POCs and POTs along with these learnings. So that's it from my side. I will invite Amlan to share his learning path with you.
Hello everybody. Good evening. This is Amlan here. So I have around 19 years of experience, and I started in TCS and worked primarily in Microsoft technology. Started with Visual Basic. From then I moved to .NET, SQL Server, then SQL Server integration services, and SQL Server reporting services. So I was mainly working in financial services, manufacturing, and utilities clients. So there, in my last utility client, which I was working, so we were there was a big customer portal, which earlier it was in on-premise. It was hosted in on-premise. From there, we did a migration to Azure and Azure PaaS, and from that moment it struck me that it's a very good platform, and with new and new services coming up, this is something which I had to learn. So I started around 2 to 3 years back with the learning in my free time about Azure. So I was mainly looking at various Microsoft documents and Microsoft trainings, and after that I started preparing for the Azure Architect examination. So during weekends and during my free time I used to study for the certification, uh, and I passed that exam. And after that, now I'm working as an Azure architect in the Azure Microsoft platform only. So right now, the not only Azure. So what we are seeing is like in the various engagements which we are now encountering. Uh, there is mostly like with Azure, it's like multi-cloud environment is the main ask nowadays. So you have to know Azure, you have to know Google Cloud and AWS Cloud. So one has to have a knowledge of most of the major cloud providers. And what I think is like TCS have come up with a very good platform like Ion, this ProCert, which gives you a understanding of all the gives you basics, gives you an understanding of all the major clouds, and prepares you for the cloud journey. Thank you, everybody.
So thank you, Amlan and Sambuddha. So I just wanted both of you to kind of share your experience. So I hope the audience is able to appreciate that it's not, if you know a certain technology, then it becomes really very easy for you to just pick up from there and pick up any of the cloud providers, learn from there and move ahead. If you are not exposed to any of the technology in a great detail, that is not a barrier. There are abundant number of learning resources and we can always go ahead from there. So these are the examples of professionals who have been able to take this leap, and I'm sure we can learn from them. Let me move ahead to the next slide. So as I was speaking, so regarding the businesses of today, this particular slide kind of shows these business characteristics that I was talking about. So I'll request you to just focus on the right hand side, the bottom right hand corner of this slide, which has the list of technologies that are today making waves. So my suggestion to all of you is, and that is how our ProCert is also designed, which are the top technologies that are making waves today in terms of application development for digital enterprises. So whether it is serverless, whether it is, so if you see the topics which ProCert cloud computing addresses, these are more or less exactly the same. That today we have to understand how serverless technologies work, how containers work, how microservices work, how streaming integrations are working, and you will notice that we have focused on these areas for your learning. The learning guide as well as the topics are all around that. So this puts you very much in the center of these technologies. Just moving to the next slide. So here are some of the examples of where, and these case studies you can see in the TCS website. So as I have just mentioned, that just like the digital superpowers, Netflix or Amazon, they've done great things using cloud computing for our industry. So are some of our customers, like two of them are most important here, and you can read about these case studies in tcs.com. One is Randstad, I don't know whether you have heard about Randstad or not, but Randstad is the largest global company uh, providing jobs to professionals of various capacities, skills. So if you know shorthand or typing, or if you know translation, or if you know have any kind of skills, you might be an air conditioning mechanic, or you might be knowing how to do welding, whatever your skills are across the globe, you apply to Randstad, and then Randstad kind of finds a job for you. It is a very, very important business. And the way they change themselves is they adopted AWS, and using AWS, they completely changed the way they find jobs for people. So those who work for Randstad, once Randstad has moved to cloud, they have become much more competitive. And this entire thing of how my skills are matched with the jobs that are there in the market, this entire thing Randstad has transformed. So that's what I was saying, that Randstad also didn't want to do business their old way. In the old way, somebody might be submitting a CV, and then it will go to 5, 10 different people to find a job for that person. But today, all of their work is done through digital channels. So all they have artificial intelligence to map the profiles and stuff like that, and that's how Randstad works. Similarly, Malaysian Airlines. If a very beautiful video of Malaysian Airlines in our website, and where Malaysian Airlines is telling the world on how, see, Malaysian Airlines, you might know about them that they lost a flight in the Pacific Ocean, and then that caused them to make huge losses, and they were finding it very, very difficult to recover from that loss of that flight, and their company was in very bad shape. Malaysian Airlines is like Malaysian government's national carrier, like our Air India, and they used to make huge losses, and Malaysian government was putting pressure on them, and the private players were taking away all of their businesses. So they realized that they have to find a way to reduce the costs. And when you are a government company, there are not many ways you can reduce cost. You cannot just lay off people or do like that. So they embraced cloud. And Malaysian Airlines CIO himself mentioned that they have been able to reduce 40% of that cost. So those are the kind of achievements that are there in the market. So I once again I will say that this is a very, very growing area. Only there's a huge chunk of applications that are going to move to the cloud. So you take this opportunity, this time to learn and move forward. So I think I will not cover this slide. I've already kind of covered it, that what are the key aspects, key characteristics that cloud brings to business. This I've already covered. I will kind of skip this, but I'll spend some time on some of the technology areas which you should learn. There's a lot of content available on YouTube and other channels. There's a lot of content available on AWS and Microsoft site. We are also supplying with a list of this curated content. Please refer to that. I'll move on to the next one. So this is the slide that is kind of important. I will just pause for a second so that you can digest this. So the important aspects of cloud native applications are highlighted in this slide. First is microservices architecture, a very, very important aspect of cloud application development. Second is serverless. So it is Azure Function or AWS Lambda. These two are very important. They're very important to build these modern applications, which I have been talking about from the beginning. Then there is cloud native integration. So cloud native integration is integrating between different applications using native technologies. So earlier there are a lot of integration technologies that are available in the industry, but there are few native technologies that are available in cloud. By native technology, I mean these are technologies which have been created with the cloud. They were not there before, prior to the cloud. So these native technologies, they give a lot of advantages, and So that is one of the thing important cloud native integration. Security, I mean, I don't think there's any need to mention about that. Everybody knows that. And the last one is about skills in general. This is not required probably for you. So let me move on to the next one. Yeah. So this is important, very important for you. I'll just pause for, so that you can take a look at the slide. What are the roles that are there today in the market? If I am a cloud expert, am I going to do everything under the sun, or am I supposed to do some specific things? I know this is an important slide for you. So what are the roles? I'll just touch upon the roles very quickly. We are well into 40 minutes of this webinar, so we have questions to be answered. So I guess I will talk about the roles a little bit, and then the learning paths. Then we can discuss about other aspects. So in a cloud program, the single most important person is the cloud solution architect. So the cloud solution architect is kind of, from a technology perspective, is kind of the commander in chief. He has to decide what cloud it is, which services will be used. So you have to think of the cloud solution architect as the person who has to design the whole thing, decide what services will be used, how they will be used, what the architecture will be, and then every project, depending on whether it is agile or whether it is waterfall. Nobody does waterfall nowadays, but he will be advising the product owner or the scrum manager on how to kind of structure the project, from a delivery perspective. Yes, often that is a cloud architect will kind of guide them in from a technology perspective, that this is how we are going to break down the project. Then there's the infrastructure architect. If it is a pure play, sometimes cloud projects are pure play infrastructure projects, then the infrastructure architect and the cloud solution architect might be the same person. Sometimes they are different. In that case, the overall cloud solution architect has a dedicated infrastructure architect under him, who takes care of all the infrastructure related, who oversees the solutioning of the infrastructure aspects of cloud, which is primarily the provisioning, the network, the security and peripheral security, all of those areas. And then the infrastructure architect, generally we have a team of infrastructure engineers who helps execute the infrastructure actual work. If you are then if you are on the application side, if is a native application development that's going on, then there will be a pool of cloud native developers. These cloud native developers will have a specialization in one or more of the subjects that I mentioned in the previous slide. So they will either be a Microsoft functions expert or AWS Lambda expert doing serverless, or they may be a cloud integration, native integration expert, or they may be a microservices expert. So one or more of that. If it is a migration program, often we have cloud migration specialists. Cloud migration is often a relatively simpler way of starting your career in cloud. So you can become a migration specialist if you like to start it simple. Then usually for cybersecurity, there's a cybersecurity expert. If you are not into actually full-blown projects, there are other roles for sales and pre-sales activities, which many of companies like us, we have a lot of sales and pre-sales consultants who help work with the customer in selling cloud services either to the customer. So you might be part of Microsoft or AWS or company like TCS, and then helping sell the cloud services. So that's what your role is. So that's an important slide. So I'll just move on to the next one. So these are the assessment topics that we have. I kind of briefly touched upon them. So application concepts, then how compute services work on cloud, containerization. So you will, what I am trying to tell you here is that you will see that I have explained to you what is happening in the industry today, and I explained to you on why that is happening. It is happening because uh, all the large enterprises, they want to become like the digital native companies. To do that, they need to adopt cloud. They cannot just do infrastructure on cloud. They have to build applications that will do business differently. And to do that, we as professionals need to learn those technologies that will do that. And see that which are those technologies that I have highlighted. These are containerization, serverless, PaaS. So, and you will see from that how we have designed ProCert. Our ProCert topics are exactly aligned to what is required today in the industry. So both for AWS or Azure, there are two stage. The ProCert certification exam is in two stage. The stage one is having conceptual questions. These are not aligned to any of the specific provider. And then the stage two are either on AWS or on Azure. So I just sometimes it is this is asked. So I'm just there's a learn both AWS and Azure also offer learning paths. I've just included the learning paths in this deck, though I'll not cover that. But if you want to follow the learning path of AWS and Azure, you can do that. Only thing that I have seen in this AWS and Azure learning path is that cloud is very vast and you can get lost into lot of things because there are some 8 or 10 different certifications from Microsoft, similarly for AWS. So you might get lost and kind of not be able to decide what I should do. So we have designed this single certification called ProCert. I hope it will be helpful to you. I'm trying to move to the next slide and it's a little slow, so just bear with me. So these are the learning resources that we have, which you can utilize for learning. Obviously, Microsoft Learn and Azure Docs and AWS documentation, all of these are very important resources. Similarly, you have the industry leaders like Pluralsight and Udemy. They are also providing a lot of courses. You can utilize them. I think with that I will pause and take any questions that you have.